So what's new about Nvidia's RTX 3080 Ti? Well, come a little closer, I'm going to tell you. A little closer. And there we have it. We've gotten pretty much a sneak peek that it's coming. So let's talk about the details. Hey guys, Thiago with Classical Technology here. Thank you for joining me again for another video. Every time you subscribe and smash the like button, they say that we get another little bit of the puzzle piece with the 3080 Ti. So let's discuss the 3080 Ti, and there's definitely a lot to unwrap here. It's pretty much the last major release, or at least for now, that we think it's coming from the RTX 3000 series. And of course, this is going to be a very tricky and sore subject, just because every single release has been a disaster in terms of availability, in terms of the price that we're seeing now. So there's definitely a lot to unfold, and we have to see, is it even gonna be worth it with the RTX 3080 Ti coming out, or is it just another GPU that's out there in paper? A couple of people have it. We see a couple of reviews. YouTubers are gonna apologize for actually having a copy of this RTX 3080, or is it going to be something that maybe is going to be a little bit more available? First, let's just discuss that point right off the bat. I really think availability is going to be absolutely brutal for this GPU. Let's take it directly from Nvidia. They recently themselves said that the availability for GPUs are going to be very poor in 2021. They hope that by 2022, they may start to ramp up more production, or at least the effects of the ramping up will come into play. But we heard this at the end of last year, where we thought now in Q1 of 2021 we would see better availability, and that obviously didn't happen. And this is going to directly pertain to the 3080 Ti. Not only is it a super high-end GPU being beat only pretty much by the 3090 6900 XT, it's going to be another GPU that not only gamers and miners are going to absolutely line up for at places like Micro Center, perhaps even a day or two before, just to be able to get their hands on this GPU. So in terms of the availability, I think it's going to be just as tough as getting a 3080 or a 3090. I really don't think it's going to make very much of a difference at all. Now, in terms of the price, apparently Nvidia may price the MSRP of something like the Founders Edition at $999, but we all know how laughable MSRP suggested retail prices have become. For example, a $699 3080, which if it's sold for that, is still one of the best deals and bargains for a GPU. That's why people run after it. But if you check right now on eBay, you'll see that they're easily selling for upwards of $1,500 to $2,000 for a 3080. Now that was pretty much the MSRP of the 3090, and the 3090 likewise is up there in the 2000s, some of them even going over $3,000. Now this is going to be on the secondary market, but you really can't get these unless you're lucky on like a Newegg Shuffle or EVGA-Q or something like that. It's really hard to get them without going to these alternate methods, and the 3080 Ti is going to be absolutely no exception. Sure, if Nvidia priced it at $999, a couple of people that would be lucky enough to get in whatever queue that made it available, that would be fantastic. But for 99.9% of everybody, that's going to be an absolutely unattainable number. I think we're much more likely to immediately see the price of this GPU at a very minimum at double $999. This is going to be a $2,000 and over GPU, especially on the secondhand market, very easily. Of course, from third-party AIB partners, you can already expect at least $1,400 to $1,500. And when these hit the secondary market, especially if the 3090 continues not to be as available in the 3080 like it is now, you're going to see these really reach the same prices or pretty much equal to a 3090. I don't think more people will differentiate between the performance gap as it starts to become less and less available. I think people will pretty much pay close to what the 3090 should be, just because it's a newer GPU, and even if it's a little bit less and more available, that should certainly make a lot of the difference. And now, what else should you know about the 3080 Ti? Well, first, it's changed quite a few times. Initially, we thought that it was going to be a pretty much stripped down, or at least sort of a little bit more of a basic 3090. They were basically just gonna, not make it nearly as powerful, but it was gonna have a lot of similarities, possibly even 12 gigabytes of VRAM. That was definitely rumored in the beginning. 20 or even 16 made sense, because that's somewhere between the 3080 and 3090, while not really encroaching on the 3090 space. But as we see here in this leak of the GPUs that are shipping, it seems like more or less 12 12 gigabytes of VRAM will be confirmed. Of course, it's going to be the faster GDDR6X, not the regular one, and that's going to be the same one found in the 3080 and 3090. So you can expect those VRAM temperatures to run very hot as well for people that are using VRAM for rendering or mining or things of that nature. That's definitely going to be something to keep in mind. And of course, now it's more like a little bit beefed up 3080 instead of a sort of pared down 3090. It's going to have, of course, less CUDA core than the 3090 and significantly less VRAM, around half the amount. So now it makes sense for somebody who necessarily doesn't want to get a 3080. They want a little bit more VRAM for their gaming if they're doing 4K or something like that. 12 gigabytes, while not ideal, it would be really nice to see 16 or even 20. At least it's better than 10 on the 3080 for those that are doing 4K or even 8K and they're doing games like Flight Simulator and things that really take advantage of having more VRAM. Not to mention creative professionals that use these GPUs to render video rendering, 3D rendering. These are very powerful GPUs. So it seems like it's basically like a beefed up 3080 now. So just keep that in mind. The performance in terms of frames per second in gaming, I really don't think it's going to be that huge, but at this point, I really don't think that performance matters anymore. It's really about the availability, and as long as this GPU is performing pretty much in between the 3080 and 3090, if people can get their hands on it, I don't really think they're going to care, especially since the 3080 Ti, the Ti moniker is actually kind of legendary. The 2080 Ti, the 1080 Ti, 980 Ti, all GPUs that in their day were absolutely fantastic. They were pretty much the highest end you can get for gaming, aside of course from the Titan GPUs. Now, even though we have the 3090, I still think a lot of people will look at a 3080 Ti as perhaps the top of the heap in terms of gaming, and the 3090 some type of weird hybrid between a really powerful gaming card as well as a card for workstations and creative professionals. So in conclusion, am I excited for the 3080 Ti? Well, yes and no. First, I mean, yes, it's a new 3080 Ti. Really nice to see the performance. I mean, I think it's pretty predictable that it's going to be right between the 3080 and 3090, but maybe there's all those little details like how does it perform with the extra gigabyte, 2 gigabytes of VRAM, how's the cooling performance, have they made the VRAM temperatures better? There's certainly things to look forward to in terms of the performance, but at the same time, no, not as excited about it, just because we know it's going to be an absolute probably disaster in terms of availability again, and we're just going to see absolutely very high prices on the secondhand market and also from the third-party AIB partner cards. Whenever you can find this GPU in one of those means, prices are going to be outrageous. Like I said, I think probably at least $2,000 and above, even though supposedly a possible MSRP is $999, which if it was true would be absolutely amazing. And while technically it may be true on paper, we know that when these hit the secondhand market, it's going to be way, way different than that. So that's why I'm a little bit on the fence about this GPU. If it means that there's more availability by producing another SKU because they can take advantage of certain chips that maybe are a little better than a 3080, not as good to be a 3090, then of course I'm all for that. But if it's just going to be something that's not going to be available at all and it's going to be very highly priced when it is available here or there, certainly not something to be very excited about. But anyway, it's a new GPU that's coming out, and always interesting to see the effect that it has on the existing GPU landscape, as interesting, exciting, and a little bit sad that it is at the current moment. Alright guys, remember to subscribe, smash that like button, let me know if you have any comments or questions down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.